Hello everyone, thank you for joining our webinar, Building Scalable Big Data Analytics Platform for Real-Time Intelligence Driving Business ROI. Today we are glad to have with us Yash Badiani, who is a practice lead of Big Data Analytics and Internet of Things at Signex Datamatics. We also have with us Mansi Vaswani, who is a business analyst for Big Data Analytics and IoT practice. So a few fundamentals and housekeeping stuff I would go through before we actually move on to the things. This webinar is being recorded, and the presentation and the webinar recording will be available at the end of the webinar. At any point of the time, feel free to use the chat box that you see on the right-hand side of the screen to ask your questions. We will be addressing your questions towards the end of the webinar. With that, I would hand to Yash. Best of luck and enjoy. Have a great, enjoyable session. Thank you.
Thanks, Rahul. Good morning, good evening, everybody. Thank you for joining and taking the time out for attending the webinar and giving us an opportunity to share our learnings. So just to give you a brief introduction about the presenters for the webinar. So I'm Yash Badiani. I lead the Big Data Analytics and IoT practice at Signex. I have a data warehousing and BI background, and I worked on designing and deploying end-to-end data management, business intelligence, data warehousing projects. In addition to some of the technology delivery aspects which I handle at Signex, I also work on some of the other business aspects such as demand generation, IP generation, creating differentiation for our services, and ultimately our goal is to provide the right solution to all of our customers. So today with me I also have Mansi Vaswani. She is a part of the big data practice, and she is a business analyst. She essentially focuses on the business aspects of the big data platform services which we provide. So based on our experience, what we have learned is that the platforms involve strong coordination and combination of business and technology skills. So she works on the end-to-end business lifecycle of the technology initiative, starting from requirement gathering to validation to test case to competitive assessments to customer demos to supporting the customers with the platforms we build. So she, while me and the technology folks work on the technology side of things, she complements us from a business standpoint. So with that, I'd like to quickly run through the agenda of this webinar. We will start with the definition of big data platform. This is essentially just to set the context on what essentially we mean by a platform, and specifically on the big data analytics side, what are some of the components of that. We will then move on to some of the use cases which we have built and provided solutions for our customers. So there are specifically two use cases which we will cover. One is on the social listening and engagement, and the second one is on sales and market intelligence. The third area which we will try to cover is we want to essentially in this webinar cover the journey which we have had in building two end-to-end platforms, starting from the concept and making that concept a reality in the market. So our idea is to share our learnings to identify what is the right combination which has helped us to deliver the right business and technology solutions to our customer, and what are some of the governance aspects also which need to be taken into account. So we will essentially cover our journey, look at what are the areas we need to cover from a planning perspective, from a execution perspective, from a technology business perspective, and then we will conclude the webinar with summarizing some of the challenges we faced at the end of it, and then how we resolved them through some of the best practices which we picked up through the course of this journey. So starting with the definition of a big data platform. So this again, as I mentioned, this slide is just to set the context of what we believe is an end-to-end big data platform. It is a IT solution that combines and consolidates the features and capabilities of several applications and utilities in a single solution, which is focused to achieve a specific business objective. So in terms of the components, every big data platform will have a data acquisition component where we would acquire the data from the internal or the external sources. This could be your enterprise generated data, or it could be external data, and it could be a consolidation of both. Then there is the data storage component, by which whatever data is acquired from internal and external sources, that is kind of managed with respect to storage and with respect to processing. The third component is the data processing component, by which we can essentially process the acquired data and apply all the business rules, enrichments, data cleansing, to ensure that whatever data we have acquired and whatever data we want to provide to the end user from a business perspective is processed in the right mechanism. The fourth and the most one of the key critical components from an end user perspective is the data visualization. So once we have acquired the data, we have stored and processed and managed the data, we need to present it to the end users through a user interface, which is which provides them an ability to mine the data, to be able to visualize the data, to be able to generate reports and insights which they are looking from a business perspective. So these four are essentially the key components of any big data analytics platforms. So we have built two platforms end-to-end, which are essentially a software as a service, and both these components, both these platforms, have these four key components which essentially complete the platform from an end-to-end perspective. So with that, I'll move on to the next slide. So this slide again is a visual representation of typically the data lifecycle of a platform. So in most of the cases, we have built the platforms on the Amazon Cloud Compute, which provides us the right compute infrastructure as well as the storage infrastructure, and also most importantly provides us the elasticity which is required for high data processing workloads. So when we would want to scale up, we would have that choice, and when we would be done with the data processing workloads, we would be able to scale down the infrastructure. So the cloud compute brings an excellent elasticity in the mix, and then it also reduces the total cost of ownership and drastically improves the procurement and the turnaround time to set up the infrastructure. So that essentially has worked the best in both the platforms we have built, and we feel that's an essential component of any big data platform. Then moving on to the different layers. So we have the data acquisition, where I mentioned that if you're building a big data platform for the internal enterprise, it could have a lot of internal sources. In some cases, you may want to tie the internal data with data which is acquired from external sources. If you are building a platform for the end consumer, which is accessed directly by the end user outside of the enterprise, then again the sources of data could be the public data sources or the social media data sources, and a combination of such sources. So once the data is acquired, we discussed about the data storage, the data processing, and then the different applications which are required from an end user perspective in terms of being able to visualize the data, both in terms of standard canned reports, in terms of ad hoc analytics, to be able to do more of the advanced analysis on the data, to be able to get to your required business insight from the platform. So this essentially is a reference architecture for for any big data analytics platform. The key components here again are the data processing, data storage, and visualization. So we focus on several technologies in each of these areas. Our attempt is to ensure that we choose the right technologies which are relevant for the use case we are building. We also want to ensure that we leverage the existing investments which are made by our customers in the existing technologies they have, and stitch together a solution which not only provides them a faster time to market, but also reduces their total cost of ownership in terms of the software infrastructure which we suggest to them to build the platform. So with that definition and the reference architecture, I would like to suggest or present the approach we kind of went through when we built these platforms. So there are three key aspects which we need to consider from a planning standpoint and also from an execution standpoint. The first one being the business aspects, which is to get the right understanding of the use case of the platform we are building for our customer, to get the data architecture right, because any big data platform, the data is the core of the platform. So to be able to have a good understanding of the data which we are acquiring and processing is very important. To have a good understanding of the data sources is equally important. Another key aspect from a business standpoint is to be very clear on the usability and user experience, how easy it is for the users to use the system, and how fast they can get to the insights they need from the platform. Another key aspect and a critical one is to be able to educate the customer on what the platform is built on, what kind of analytical use case will that support, what's the definition of the data which the platform processes, and to be able to do that from a business standpoint to meet the desired objectives. From a technology aspect, it is also very important to get the right technology and the solution architecture, to get the right design, to get the right tools from an operational standpoint for governance, code management, automated deployments and builds, etc., to be able to have the right balance between features and functionalities of the technologies that are proposed for the platform, and also the cost of ownership, to be able to optimally balance that. And most importantly, most of the big data platforms have evolving requirements. So the use case, the core use case for which the platform is built could extend, and there could be enhancements which are required. So the technology or the solution architecture which has been built should be extensible and also maintainable. So there should be reduced or lower effort of maintenance, and at the same time the architecture should be flexible enough to be able to provide us the right augmentation required or the right extensions required when there are changes in the business requirements, or there are more feature functionality requests from the end users of the system. So in addition to the business and technology aspects, we also need to focus on governance aspects in terms of what execution methodology which we will have, what are the processes that we will identify for the platform build, how to ensure that the time to market is right, because this is an evolving area. So if you miss the time to market, you might already be behind the competition. How to get the right skills on the team, and not only acquiring the skills but also getting the right balance and composition within the team. And most importantly, there is a key requirement to have the right alignment between the business objectives and the ROI of the platform with the technology architecture which you are building out. So I think what we have learned through our platform builds is that if you want to succeed in building the right data and platform architecture, all these three aspects need to go hand in hand, and then you would be able to improve the chances for building something which was desired from a business standpoint and also monetize on that. So with that background on the definition of the big data platforms, on the reference architecture, and on some of the focus areas which we need to consider from a technology, business, and governance standpoint, I'd like Mansi to now drill down onto the business aspects on what are the areas which need to be handled from a business standpoint along with the technology implementation, so that whatever is implemented is as per requirement and meets the desired objective. So she will walk us through our two reference case studies which we have built over the last couple of years, and she will also identify critical areas which need to be taken into consideration into the platform build lifecycle. So over to you, Mansi.
Thank you, Yash. Good evening, everybody. Thank you for taking time out to join the webinar and giving us an opportunity to talk about our experiences. I have been a part of two end-to-end platform builds here at Signex Datamatics. So me and my team basically work on the business aspects throughout the life cycle of a platform build to ensure that the platform ultimately delivers the desired business value. Both the platform builds that I have been part of were based on open data. One was on social data and the other has been on professional data. I will briefly take you through both the use cases. The first use case is for a SaaS-based social listening and engagement platform. The objective of this platform was to give the user an ability to search various social networks and find actionable insights, along with the ability to engage in near real time. The platform was initially configured for two target audiences, for the legal vertical, which is the lawyers and law firms, and second for the marketing departments. So somebody like a brand manager or a customer service manager would use this. The application for the legal use cases included research on witnesses, potential jurors, and the benefit was to find evidence and background research on people of interest during a trial. The second use case for marketing, wherein a manager can gauge feedback about their brand or service and also actively engage with their customers in near real time. One of the key challenges when dealing with social data is that there is plenty of data out there, but it's difficult to get to the most relevant insights faster. The key USP of this platform was that it enabled the user to get to the most relevant insights first, and also both at an aggregated and a granular level. While a brand manager may be interested in the aggregated insights, somebody like a customer service manager might be more interested in mention level or post level analysis. Also, the platform was designed in a way that it can be easily configurable for various verticals, so say the legal, extendable to political and media and so on. So this is the first use case in a nutshell. I'll take you through the next use case now. The second use case is one that leverages open professional data for getting more targeted leads, which ultimately enable higher and faster conversions and reduce the overall sales cycle. Some of the key features for this platform are that it gives insight into a company's product install base and also lets the user easily navigate through an organization structure to find the right people to contact. It also offers smart filtering and sorting capabilities, so it's easier to find the right prospects, say by an industry or a company size. The main benefit of the platform is that it helps to form a company's sales strategy based on geo, the revenue size, the employee range size, and so on. So we'll briefly go through the business aspects, which in our experience helped us get both these platform builds right. So the first, I'll briefly take you through all the phases and our experiences through all of them. So the first one is of conceptualization. So basically what we suggest we do is validate the feasibility of business requirements in the light of underlying raw data, and also validate the whole business idea. So we typically sign up with beta customers once the prototype is ready. So we get quick feedback on the idea. We see if it's viable, and also identify the need, identify any constraints if any, and also the enrichments needed. So something as simple as in our social listening use case, we realized that we were not getting geo data with all the mentions that we were collecting. So that is something that we needed to find a solution early on in our build life cycle, and this validation helped us get to that faster. And also we realized as we started to build this for the marketing vertical, we realized that there was a lot of interest around finding the key influencers, and hence we identified an enrichment called the cloud score to be shown with each post, which actually helped a lot when the product went to market, and it became one of the key USPs of the platform. So the next is we suggest to do a competitive assessment of the platform we are building. So we typically find competitor products and see if our target market focus is right, identify our differentiators, identify the USPs of the conceptualized platform. So in our social listening use case, we evaluated a lot of competitor products, and we realized that a lot of products were doing, not a lot of products were doing aggregated insights in near real time. So this helped us identify a lot of USPs of our platform. And lastly, when we are building platforms, while it is good to have vertical focus, I think with innovative ideas, the KPIs and the insights also need to be extendable to different use cases if the need be in future. So in the use cases that we are referring to, we had some aggregated insights like, say, sentiment analysis and top hashtags and key influencers, which will be useful for a small business who's looking for feedback on social media, as well as a large countrywide political campaign. So we identify such insights which could be extendable to a lot of verticals. The next thing, and I think this is one of the most important part of any big data analytics platform, is understanding the underlying data, the data definition, governance, and the business rules for processing. It's important to identify there is plenty of data out there, and it's very easy to get overwhelmed and lost in the quantum of data out there. But it's important to tie all that to the ultimate business objective that we are trying to achieve. So one of the things is what networks to consider, what sources to consider when acquiring data, and also from them what data to retain. So in our case, we realized that something like Twitter was more effective in marketing use cases, whereas YouTube was a more reliable source when talking about the legal use cases. So these are some of the things that we realized, and we altered our acquisition and processing approach based on these. The next thing is that when we acquire this data also makes a lot of difference on the quantum of data that we get and the quality of data that we get as well. So trending topics always give higher mention and better quality aggregated insights as well. So a sentiment analysis for a buzzing topic will always be more relevant than something which is not currently being talked about a lot. Also, the business rules for processing, for cleansing, filtering, enriching data, making the associations, rankings, etc. are very, very important when we are trying to get the most relevant and important data to the user faster. So in the use cases that we are talking about, we realize that while it's good to give the user a lot of data on screen, they need to look at the most relevant data first. And we came up with some business rules and a scoring mechanism which help the user get to the most relevant post first after they search for something. Also, it's important to, once the system is live, up and running, we need to consider on how we're going to manage change to the data. So how much historical data do we want to retain? How relevant is that data after some time? So these are some rules which need to be reviewed in the light of the business objectives, ultimate target market and focus for the product. Also, as we talked about, the insights and the analysis should be relevant and fast. I'll take you through the next slide now. So one of the most important things is for big data platforms is that the approach to testing and assuring quality has to be slightly different. While application testing is important and needs to be done right, we need to have some basic checks for a data-intensive platform. So the data needs to be relevant to what the user is looking for, and also the data needs to be of the right quality. So for our sales and marketing intelligence platform, if the user found a good lead, but if the contact information for that lead was not relevant, it would defeat the whole purpose of the user signing up for that platform. So I feel that there have to be quality checks at each level of the processing cycle to ensure that we are not getting lost in just the technology stack and processing the quantum of data, but that at all times it is relevant to what the platform is trying to achieve. Lastly, the monetization part of the platform. So as this is primarily the business is concerned to monetize on their platform, but how we as solution providers can become partners is what our attempt is through all the platforms that we build. So there are some small things that we do, but have seen that they make an impact to our clients. Is we ensure that they get their introduction to their end users in the form of demos or any other form are right, and we are aligned to that. So we ensure that we incorporate that in our QA as well as, so we contribute to their demo scripts as well. And one of the most important parts is to get the end user to understand how to make the most of the system, which will keep them engaged, and ultimately they can.
Search and analytics. We also need to define, what would be the ideal data storage, what will be the latency of data processing, how much time do we need to complete the entire processing cycle right from acquisition to be able to generate the process data for delivering the insights. We should also, it helped a lot when we planned for performance testing and benchmarking early in the platform build and on a larger volume of data, where we found several optimizations from a design standpoint, which really helped us reduce the efforts during the product pre-launch phase. We also have learned that we need good level of auditing when we are doing the data processing, because we are dealing with a lot of data in terms of the source, in one of the use case we have processed approximately 90 million records, and in order to be able to better troubleshoot what went wrong in the processing cycle, we had to put detailed auditing in terms of every step, so that we are able to isolate the problem and hence resolve that faster. It is also very important at a design stage to have a good understanding of the acceptance criteria of the system, both from a functional and non-functional standpoint, which helps us to plan for the performance aspects which I mentioned. If the user response time from a end user perspective is defined, the query response times are defined, and the functional requirements are clear from an acceptance standpoint, that what would the system pass, what criteria the system would pass. Those are the key elements from a design standpoint. So essentially, again, along with all the business aspects we discussed earlier, the solution architecture, design are equally important to be able to plan and execute. Another key component in most of the projects has been the DevOps. So we kind of look at what is the right infrastructure for the platform build. Should we go on-premise versus cloud? As I mentioned earlier, cloud compute has been the best option in both the platforms we build for the elasticity we got for our data processing workloads. So we had in the use case for say market intelligence, we have a monthly batch cycle for data processing. So it helped us to scale out with respect to data processing servers when we had the data processing cycle, and then we were able to scale them down once the cycle was over. From a DevOps standpoint, it is also very important for planning on disaster recovery, high availability, to ensure that the right set of alerts are placed in the system. So the platform has essentially several components. We need to be alerted on failure in any of the component because it would cause an impact and outage to the end user and hence a poor user experience. So we need the right alerts in place from a operational standpoint. We also need to be consciously aware of the softwares and their version upgrades. So we need to continuously plan for upgrading the softwares to the latest version and leverage the latest features available in those versions. We also need to look at the enterprise support and licensing. So whether the tools we have chosen have enterprise support, because as the platform goes live and is business critical, it is very important to have the right product support from the vendor so that in case of any outage or in case of any issues, we are able to resolve them faster. So we essentially try to focus on technologies that have enterprise support, even from an open source standpoint. Another aspect where we assist our customers is to identify the right tools from a continuous integration perspective, automated deployments, database snapshots, archival. So we have a managed cloud services team which works with the project teams to identify some of these tools and suggest the best practices. And eventually, again, as we build out the whole compute and technology infrastructure, we need to essentially see how are we optimizing the cost of ownership, because as I mentioned, if we are processing 100 million records, I need a lot of capacity in terms of my infrastructure. So it could be a lot of cost, but then at the same time, if I'm able to if I'm able to have an elastic scalable option, then I would be able to save cost and not invest in dedicated hardware for my project. So these are some of the things we assist our customers from a DevOps standpoint, and also every team which gets onto a big data platform build is a combination of the business aspects which Mansi covered, and from a technology standpoint, the solution architecture and design, and we are also complemented and augmented with our managed cloud services team on the DevOps side. So moving on to some of the governance aspects. So while business and technology and DevOps work hand in hand, what is also very important, which we observed, is the right governance framework for these projects to ensure that we are able to hit the market in time, to identify the right methodology for the build, whether we do it agile, whether we do it iterative. Most of the projects are agile and iterative. We have not done much on the waterfall model, because we want to be able to build fast, and if get the feedback as early as possible in the development life cycle, so that if we are not on the right track as per the expectation, we are able to do course correction early in the product life cycle. So to that point, we do a lot of pilots, we do POCs in terms of identifying the end-to-end use cases. We also have iterative validations and checkpoints. It is very important that we have the right team composition. So our endeavor is to ensure that we have the right mix of DevOps skills, business skills, technology skills, and the testing aspects, both from a functional and system standpoint. Also, it is very important to have the right expectation management set from a governance standpoint in terms of the internal and external customers. So what are the strengths of the system? What are the limitations of the system? That's equally important. So essentially, what we are trying to convey here is, when we approach a big data platform build, we as a solution provider and as a team focus on this different aspects of the platform build. Getting a better handle on the business requirements, augmenting that with the right solution architecture, complementing that with the right DevOps, and also having the right processes and governance framework to be able to ensure that all these three aspects work in a tightly coordinated fashion, so that we are able to provide the right results to our customers and hence help them to provide the right results to their end customers. So to summarize, the key takeaways from our standpoint is essentially summarized in this slide. So if we look at some of our key learnings, one thing which we have found out is, in most of the big data projects, especially the ones which rely on external data, there is limited control we have on the data sources. So it is very important for us to know the data well, and we stress a lot on that, and hence we are able to consult and support our customers better in terms of what are the limitations that exist with the data which we have, and then how we can overcome those limitations through our data processing and management frameworks. Another challenge which we have figured out is how do you give a structure to a lot of unstructured data which we acquire. So both the platform builds were on unstructured data from from the professional and social networks. So what we do is we validate our processing rules. So because the data could have different structure, it could have some data entities present in some of the source system records which we get, and in some it may not be. So we need to ensure that we validate our processing rules for different use cases, and ensure that the data which we are processing meets the requirements of all those use cases before we certify it ready for an end customer. From a technology architecture standpoint, as I mentioned, we need to achieve the right balance between having a simple and extensible technology architecture. So our approach here has been to check in case where we don't need a lot of sophistication. So for example, in one of the platforms, we did not need a lot of advanced visualization requirements at the platform launch. So what we did is we initially thought of utilizing a business intelligence tool, but then we found that it would be an overkill. So we kind of custom visualizations, and in another case where we wanted an end-to-end workflow as well as visualization, we went for an approach where we integrated a portal for the user interface layer. So again, the key learning here is where it is very important to be able to strike the right balance between what to build and what to buy, because every tool we add to the architecture is going to add some level of complexity, and is also going to increase the maintenance aspect. So our attempt has to be to reduce the complexity and at the same time increase the flexibility. So another challenge we faced in the platform builds is there has been a gap in the end user expectations. So because we are dealing with unstructured data, because we are dealing with data which is a little uncertain in nature, there has been some expectations mismatches between what we intended to build out and what the user sees when they get the system in hand. So it is very essential, and what has helped us a lot is we try to understand and work with our customers to identify the target customers or the beta customers, and we also do support them in the pre and post launch. So for the social listening and engagement platform, we helped our client to identify and handhold the first select customers to ensure that they get the nuances of the platform right, and hence we were able to retain them for a longer period on our platform. As I mentioned, the skills. So a platform build of this complexity requires diverse skills, and instead of just acquiring the skills, it is also essential to have the right team composition. So we need the team to have the right mix of business acumen and technology skills, and also the DevOps skills, and also the right governance and communication aspects. So what has worked well for us is to get a team which is focused on their core strengths, and hence identify the issues and better solutions from the customer standpoint. The final thing is we always have had this challenge of conflicting priorities. So as the platform evolves, there are more business expectations, and there are subsequent challenges from a platform lifecycle standpoint to be able to meet those business expectations. So what we have seen is an iterative and agile development approach works the best. So we are able to validate the requirements faster. We are able to build something and show it to the business faster, and hence be able to get a better handle on the delivery time, and also understand whether the requirements indeed will provide the desired benefits to the end users. So I think with that, I'd like to conclude the webinar. So essentially the summary is it has been a journey for us. We worked on several technologies on the big data space. In some cases we have used NoSQL. In some cases we have used Hadoop. In some cases we have used ETL tools, both proprietary and open source. In some cases we have written custom processes to do data processing and management. So essentially what it boils down to is getting the best use case match for our customers by stitching together proprietary and or open source technologies, and hence also giving the desired business outcomes by ensuring that we are not only plugged in from a technology perspective, but also from a business perspective right from the beginning. So we have Mansi and her team focus on the business aspects along with the technology aspects right from day one on the projects. So I think all of these has helped us to deliver the right value to our customers, to understand their pain points better, both from a business and technology perspective, and then be a partner in the platform development journey with them. So I think with that, I'd like to thank everybody who joined the webinar. If there are any questions, we can take that, and the presentation will be available shortly after the webinar. And thank you so much for your time and joining us.
So thank you, Yash. I'm just looking through the session and I see that there is one question there, that what technology do you prefer to use for social listening?
Yeah. So as I mentioned, in terms of the social listening, we have used different approaches. So in some cases, we were able to use a lot of ETL tools provide connectivity to social networks. So Talent, which is a leading ETL tool, which is open source and we focus on extensively, has a connector to Twitter. So in some cases where our needs are basic, we are able to use ETL tools which are off the shelf to acquire data from social networks. In some cases where our needs span different networks and also have a custom requirement in terms of the data we acquire, we have built custom processes to use the public APIs or the paid APIs exposed by the networks to access data.
I think we are already out of time, so let's take other questions offline. We thank you everyone for joining in. Sorry we did shoot a bit over time, but we will be ensuring that the recording is available to you offline as well as the presentation. Thank you all and have a nice day.